Hello BookTube! Today I am here today to do my first original book tag, and that is the Wonder Woman book tag. Now this is something that I was inspired to make when I, like most of people on BookTube, went to go see the 2017 film Wonder Woman. Now I absolutely love the movie, and I was inspired to make a book tag out of it. Now, part of the reason why I loved it so much was not only because it had a really kick-ass female character, but also and not just character, by the way, a protagonist, but also because it touched on a lot of really mature and relevant themes in a way that a lot of other action-based movies don't. And so I really wanted to create a book tag that reflected this. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. The 2017 film Wonder Woman has been long awaited and received with great acclaim. Name a badass female character who has long gone unnoticed. And for that I picked Pope Joan by Donna Cross Woolfolk. Now, this book was based on a woman who may or may not have lived in the early Middle Ages. Joan was phenomenally bright and intelligent, but like most people of that time, there were not any educational opportunities unless you went into the church. Now, Joan was a woman, and so that was not available to her. So what she did was she disguised herself as a man and became a monk. She became incredibly well renowned for her intelligence, and that led to her rising up through the ranks of the Catholic Church, and eventually she became the Pope. So I picked Joan for this question because I thought hardly anyone knows about her, but she was such a badass woman that, she deserves a little bit of recognition. Number 2, the film broke records for movies made by female directors. Name a female writer in the world of literature who overcame adversity to become successful. Now for that, I went with the very infamous author Harper Lee. Now, Harper Lee's full name was Nell Harper Lee, but when she decided to publish To Kill a Mockingbird, she dropped her first name and just became Harper Lee to sound more androgynous. And in case you haven't heard, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the best-selling and most acclaimed books of all time. Number 3. Diana and the Amazons get their power from Zeus, the Greek god. Name a work of fiction inspired by religious mythology. And for that, I'm going to go with Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. This is the retelling of Cupid and Psyche. And because it's C.S. Lewis, it obviously has to have a Christian influence as well. Now, Psyche in this book is actually the stand-in Christ figure because she must be sacrificed to save the greater good. So this book has influences not just of the Christian religion, but also of the Greek religions as well. Number 4, the Amazons. Name a myth or old story that has inspired countless spin-offs in books and other media. For that, I went with Robin Hood. I really adore this legend and learning more and more about whether or not Robin existed and the other similar figures whose stories might have blended with Robin's to, become some of his conquests instead. And so I'll consume just about anything that that is about Robin Hood in a book, in a movie, in a TV show. So, so if you have any good recommendations for anything about Robin Hood and any types of media, let me know down in the comment section. Number 5, Men Aren't Needed for Pleasure. Name a book that features a lesbian romance or implies female masturbation. Now, for this, I went with The Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. Now, this book broke waves because it was all about women reclaiming control of their physiology and being unashamed to talk about who they were. Number 6, instead of being the token strong female character that is a trope we often see in poorly written fiction, Diana is a fully rounded character. Name a female character that breaks stereotypes instead of being one. And just as a note, the character does not need to be a warrior. There are lots of different ways to be a strong woman. And for that, I went with Calidry of Mendelin from The Protector of the Small Quartet, which is by Tamora Pierce. This is a middle grade series that I found when I was younger and that was deeply inspirational to me. Kel is an 11-year-old girl when the series first starts, and she wants to become a knight. And before her, there has been a woman who became a knight, but she had to disguise herself as a boy. So she is the first open female to attempt knight training for hundreds of years, and as such she encounters tons of obstacles and harassment. But Kel is not just a bloodthirsty assassin type figure. She is incredibly responsible, thoughtful, and mature. And because of that, she is a great role model for young girls. But she is also not just a figurehead. She has mistakes, she makes mistakes, and she grows a lot throughout the series. Number 7, Diana only uses violence when necessary, not out of bloodlust. Name a character who uses their powers or abilities for the greater good. Now, for that, I went with Odin from Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. Now, Odin in the original Norse legends probably wasn't like this. I'm not incredibly familiar with the Norse legends, so I'm sure this would no longer be relevant in those areas, but in this particular book, he isn't perfect, but he is concerned with the pursuit of knowledge and not with bloodlust or with power like a lot of the other gods. Number 8, Ares, the god of war, inspires the humans to violence, but he cannot force them to act upon it. Name 2 books, one fiction and one nonfiction, that exposes the dark underbelly of humanity. Now, for my work of nonfiction, I went with A Woman in Berlin, 8 Weeks in a Conquered City, which was an anonymous diary written by a woman in Berlin right after the first week, right after the city fell to the Russians. Now, she experienced incredible amounts of trauma, just like all the other women during that time. There was a mass epidemic of rape. Now, women couldn't walk outside their houses without being raped. And this wasn't unique to Russian soldiers or German women. This was happening all over. This was happening with American soldiers to French women and, excuse me, and to if you can name an army and name a country they inhabited, it happened there. So this sheds light a little bit on the toll of war on civilians, and particularly what happens when you unleash a group of people who have a lot of power on a small group of people who have little to no power. And for my work of nonfiction, I went with Underground Airlines by Ben H. Winters. I did a review of this about 6 months ago, I believe. This book is about what the world would be like today if the Civil War never happened and each state had to individually decide to abolish slavery. As such, there are 4 states in the United States that have not abolished slavery. And so because of it, it raises all sorts of questions about ethical labor and about the line where money meets human rights interests, and it is incredibly thought-provoking. Number 9, every war has casualties. Name an author who isn't afraid to kill their characters for the sake of authenticity. And for that, I went with Steinbeck. He has written so many notable works, but so many of them have deaths in them, and they're not senseless deaths designed to make you feel something for characters you feel nothing about, but they are necessary deaths. And I won't tell you what books I'm referring to, but because of spoilers, but I will say There's a lot of deaths in most of his works. I am going to tag a bunch of people because I've made a lot of friends on BookTube, so I will leave their names and their channels down in the description box, the doobly-doo. And also, if you would like to do this tag, please feel free, and I shall see you all next time. Bye!